and welcome to our very first James Clemens PTSA meeting of the 2021-2022 school year. Thank you for those of you that are here in attendance. I appreciate each of you coming and joining us in the building. It's great that we actually get to meet in the building for now. Let's hope that we can continue that. We have some very important and very helpful guest speakers tonight, so we will get to them as quickly as we can. First, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Tony Opsey, and I am the current president for the James Clemens PTSA this year. The reason I volunteer is because I am passionate about the mission statement of PTA and making sure that every child in our community has an advocate for them. And really, PTSA and PTA is all about 4 words. It's every child, one voice. And PTA's mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. This includes everybody across the community. Just because your child is not a student here yet doesn't mean I'm going to look out for that particular child any less. We work to achieve our mission by honoring the values of the Alabama Pta, and these are collaboration. We work with a wide variety of community members. Commitment. We are dedicated to the educational success and well-being through strong family and community engagement. Diversity. We acknowledge the potential of every body, period. Respect has to be to every one of our contributors in our entire program. And accountability. All members have shared a shared responsibility to align their efforts toward the success of our PTSA. So please join our PTSA and help make this the best year yet. Next, because this is our first meeting, I'm going to introduce our board this year and have each of them come up and just let you know who they are and what they're contributing to our board. So first, let's start with our treasurer, Heather Jesvold.
My name is Heather Jesvold, and I'm the treasurer this year, and I have a few of the budgets around the room if y'all want to look at that. We currently have $11,341.84 in our budget, and we will do a motion to approve the budget since we do have enough to hit our quorum. So if anybody wants to motion to approve.
A motion.
All right, PJ, any second? Michelle, thank you. That's all I have.
Our genius behind the camera, Miss Jody Meter.
As Tony said, my name is Jody Meter. I do communications, so my job is to make sure that you all know everything that is going on with the PTSA. We do that through email, social media, and then we also put things on the screens throughout the school so that the students are also aware and can look at those. You can reach us through any of the social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or through our email. All of those would be at JCPTSA, and then of course our email is jcptsa@gmail.
Next, PJ Bachelor.
Hi, I'm PJ Bachelor, or Patricia Bachelor. I'm the Vice President of Membership for James Clemens PTSA this year. So membership is incredibly important, not only at the elementary and middle school levels, but also at our high school levels. Like Tony touched on, the purpose of PTA is to make sure that every child reaches their potential. And even though that changes how we involve at the upper levels, we still need to be involved. And so if you haven't already, we would like to encourage you to join PTSA. The membership is only $10 for each parent, and it's $5 for students. We are a PTSA, and the students are the S. And so that's a great way for your students to start getting involved and to explore some leadership options. So if you haven't already, please consider doing that.
Thank you. And our VP of Volunteers.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Denise Swain, your VP for Volunteers. One of the things that we're doing here at James Clemens is reflections. At the elementary level, that's really a big thing, but also here at the high school is also a big thing. So reflections is just that time where you can just kind of show your creativity, whether it's art, theater, photography, and literature. So tell your students to get involved, so be looking out. Also, if you have any seniors, or know anyone that has a senior, if they get involved, there's also that whole scholarship that they can also apply for. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to be happening later on in this fall. Also, as volunteer, we'll be asking for you guys to volunteer. A couple of things that we have going on in the fall is our homecoming dance. So hopefully, cross your fingers and keep your mask on. Wash your hands. We can have that homecoming dance, and if in doing so, we actually sponsor a coat check, allowing the students to take off their coats or jackets for the guys, and those really cute, uncomfortable high heel shoes for the girls. They can leave those with us. So again, we'll send out that information when the time comes. We'll have that sign-up genius going out so you guys can volunteer. And again, if your friends aren't here, bring your friends with you to help you have more fun that night and see all the cute outfits. So again, with reflections, that's going to be happening later on that fall. And if anyone just has a place where they want to help out with reflections, we're still looking for someone to kind of sponsor that, kind of chair that. We'll kind of help you along the way. So if that's you or you know someone, just kind of come see me at the end. Okay? Awesome.
We should mention, you do not need to be artistic to chair that position. Our next is our member at large.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle Wimberly. I'm the member at large, and I am responsible for T-shirts and spirit wear, which, just for those who are wanting to know, will be delivered tomorrow afternoon or Thursday morning for the last batch that was done. And there will always be an email go out when your order is ready too, so keep that in mind. And the other thing I do is I work on teacher treats, so if any teachers have suggestions as to what they would like, please let us know, and we will try to make that happen. That's all I have.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least is our secretary, Ashley.
I'm Ashley Brown. I am secretary this year, so I'm mainly just right, but most of the time I'm here. But I did want to go ahead and tell everybody that our next general PTA meeting will be October the 19th. It'll be 6 o'clock right here in the same room. We're hoping as long as everything stays as is. And then also wanted to there's going to be a mental health fair. Y'all may have seen something about this already being advertised. It's going to be on September the 14th at 5:30 p.m. It's going to be in the James Clemens Auditorium. This is an event that everyone will need to RSVP for if you're coming. So you'll start seeing social media, and there will be an email sent out for a link to be able to do that RSVP. So we hope everyone will come join us for that event as well.
Perfect. Thank you, ladies. The Mental Health Summit is going to be something that is district-wide. We are inviting all of the schools, so spread the word. This is not a James Clemens unique event. We want everybody to be able to come and get their questions answered and make sure you know who resources are available to you in the community and even at your own schools. With that being said, we have a phenomenal resource here, Miss Felicia Thompson, who is with the Enrichment Center, and she is actually a counselor that is in James Clemens on a daily basis. She has a coworker, Miss Allison Spratley, who is also joining her, who is going to talk to us tonight a little bit about mental health and what they have to offer us in the community. So please help me welcome these ladies.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Allison Spratley, and I am the Director of Community Relations and Outreach for the Enrichment Center. It is an honor to be able to speak with you tonight about our organization, and I'm going to hand it over to Felicia here in just a few minutes. But I want to spend a few minutes explaining to you what the Enrichment Center is and what we do in our community. So we will get started. First of all, the purpose of our organization is mental health counseling. And so what we always like to make sure everybody understands is that mental health in youth, in the youth population, is a big deal. And 1 in 6 youth ages 6 to 17 experience a mental health condition each year. And oftentimes, mental health services for the youth population, either they're not provided, or those youth don't seek help, or it's something that just goes, undiscussed. And that's something that we really want to end that stigma. We want to make sure that every child has what they need if they're walking through a difficult time. So the Enrichment Center is a school-based counseling program. Our mission is to passionately walk with students through seasons of struggle and to equip students with the tools, support, and confidence to create a brighter future. So we believe not only in counseling them during that difficult time, but giving them the tools that they need so that if something were to happen in the future, they have the confidence that they can work through those next struggles if we're not there with them. So we believe in hope. We believe that what we do on a daily basis is bringing hope to children in dark times. And so it's a passion of ours. Everybody that works at the Enrichment Center does it because they're passionate. Here's a little bit of information. This is kind of hard to read, so I'll just walk through this. This is a step-by-step process about how the Enrichment Center works, what we do, and how it's related to James Clemens and other schools. So the first thing is that the Enrichment Center hires licensed counselors and social workers. They work full-time for our organization. We pay them. They are full-time employees for us. We are a nonprofit organization, and currently we have 18 licensed counselors on our staff. Then after that, we build relationships with local school districts to partner with them to bring our services to their schools. Okay, so once we do that and we establish that relationship, our counselors go into those schools and work there every day. It depends on the relationship and how many schools are allotted for each district. Some schools have a Enrichment Center counselor every single day of the week. Sometimes a counselor floats between 2 different schools. It just depends. It depends on the caseload. It depends on how many students need our services and what our established relationship is. So the reason that we believe in having those counselors in the school building all day long is because we know that if those counselors create themselves as part of the school culture and become part of the family, students are more likely to seek services. So if they see that person, they're a familiar face, they have built relationships with teachers and and the school counselors and the coaches and the administrators, the more that we can do to make our Enrichment Center counselor part of the students' everyday lives, the likelier it's going to be that we can make a difference in that child's life. So then step 3 is we receive referrals from the school for students that would benefit from our services. So if a student shows signs, maybe a teacher recognizes that something's going on, or at the high school level, a student can refer themselves and say, hey, I think I need some support. A parent can reach out to the school counselor. However it works, coaches, anybody that recognizes that something might be going on with that child, that they would benefit from talking to someone. They can speak to the school counselors. I think there are 4 of them here at James Clemens. And then those counselors will get that child a referral to our Enrichment Center counselor to establish that student-counselor relationship so that they can start being seen. So then step 4 is our counselors provide free counseling to students during the day. We believe in eliminating barriers to mental health services. So by providing the service during the school day, we are eliminating the transportation barrier. One of the biggest barriers to children seeking mental health counseling is that they can't get there, they don't have mode of transportation to get to mental health counseling, and the financial barrier. Oftentimes the financial burden of counseling will prevent families from seeking that service. And so our services are always free to students and their families. Okay, so I answered some of these questions already, but these are what you'll see on our webpage and in some of the flyers that we hand out to the community. Why is this special? What makes our program different? Like I mentioned, transportation, one of the greatest barriers of counseling, is already arranged. And our services are offered at no cost to the student or family, and we do not bill insurance. Next is, the one in red, is that teachers, coaches, school counselors, staff, bus drivers, whoever that know students well and see them every day can recognize those early signs of something going on in that child's life. And when they do, they can reach out to the school counselor to put that family in touch with our enrichment counselor to get those services as quickly as possible. The one in yellow is what I mentioned before about how when those children and teens understand that this person is a safe place, it's stigma-free, they're at the school where those child goes to school every day, and it's confidential, they're more likely to seek help, and that's our goal. And then we know that education and mental health are intertwined. I have a teaching background. I used to teach at Discovery Middle School. The executive director of the Enrichment Center is a former Madison City Schools employee. She was principal at Discovery when I was there. Went on to teach at, or to work at the central office. We are educators. We know the impact that mental health has on education. We are not counselors. We hire out for that because we want experts in that field. And so we see the value in providing this service to schools, and we look for the very best in our counselors because we know the impact it can have on children. One thing too, I want to circle back to that we do not bill insurance. There are other programs similar to us, and they do a phenomenal job as well. The difference here though is that we believe that insurance should not be a barrier to service. Oftentimes insurance takes a long time before a child can be seen. It will dictate how often a child can be seen and for how long. And we don't think that those types of parameters should be put on kids. So if a child is going through something and they need help today, our counselor's going to see them. That's a crisis situation. That's one of the benefits of having them in the school building. And you know, you're not going to wait 3 weeks if they have a crisis going on. And if a child is going through something incredibly difficult, they can be seen every week. They can be seen twice a week if they need to be. We don't have those types of limitations that you often have with insurance. Okay, so you'll see a lot of what we talk about is based on hope. And so this is a story of hope. And now please understand that we are sticklers for privacy and confidentiality. So as the community relations person that knows that this is how you explain things to people is that you have to share stories. We don't share student stories. So what these are, when you see a story of hope, what I do is every year I have my counselors write fictional stories of hope for me. They've been doing this for so many years that they can write these stories for me. They can use examples of what might the impact be for a child. And so this is an example of something that would maybe happen to a child that was struggling with something and the impact that working with us could have on them. This is a child who is struggling with failing grades, severe social anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. He met with his Enrichment Center counselor weekly. After several months, his grades went up. He had made 3 new friends, and he no longer had feelings of suicide. Now, his Enrichment Center counselor does maintenance checks him with him once a month, and he has continued to flourish. That is how it could be structured for a child. They may be seen once a week until they get through that really rough time, and then they can transition to just once a month check-ins with the Enrichment Center counselor until, you know, we feel confident that they have the tools and the support to go on. Okay, we're going to get into some mental health facts, and again, I know what I don't know, and this is where we turn to Felicia, and she is the James Clemens Enrichment Center counselor. She works here all day, every day. If the kids are in the building, she's in the building.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to give you a couple of facts before I go into the topic of mental health and COVID and then grief support. So one of the facts is the average delay between symptom onset and treatment for a student what I want us to think about is a student who may be 5 years of age, and think about them waiting 11 years. They may be 16 or 17 years old before they ever even get help or seek help. And that's a long time for somebody to deal with, you know, those kind of issues that they may be dealing with, depression, anxiety, or anything like that. A long time to suffer an emotional pain and sometimes physical pain. 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses begin by the age of 14. So we're looking at depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, eating disorders, sometimes the early onset of bipolar. All of those can begin by the age, start to present themselves by the age of 14. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for people between the ages of 10 and 34. So that again includes our population, our students. So what I do in the schools, and a lot of the issues that I see are anxiety, depression, life changes, and life changes are also what we call adjustment issues. It could be like if they're moving to Huntsville from another city or state, if they're also transitioning from middle school to high school, that can be difficult for a student. If they're dealing with a divorce in the family or loss of a loved one, all of those can be life changes for a student to have to deal with. Grief, again, I tell my students grief is not only just the loss of a loved one, but it can be the loss of anything significant in your life. It can be your relationship. It can be, you know, if your home was lost because of a traumatic event or anything like that. Behavioral concerns, those again are like the acting out, self-harm, the cutting, the hair pulling, the head banging, different things like that. Parent-child relationships, a lot of times that can be where they just don't feel like they can communicate with their parents, they don't feel like their parents understand them. And I also see parents who are wanting to make better connections with their students. So sometimes I will see both parent and child in my office. We have self-esteem, stress management. Sometimes with students, you know, like with COVID, that can be a stressful event for them. It can also mean like a lot of them who are getting ready to graduate and they don't know what they're going to do, you know, after graduation, or they feel like they should have all the answers when they walk across that stage. It may be pressure to succeed, so a lot of that can be stressful for them. And other issues that we see with children, sometimes it's just having a bad day, you know, and again, that's where we can afford to see them because we don't bill for insurance. So they can come in and say, today just sucks for me, you know, and so a lot of times we've been in that situation ourselves where we're having a bad day, and it's hard for us to concentrate and do any kind of work. So they can come in, they can talk, receive the services that they need, and they can go back and be productive in the classroom. So one of the things that we were talking about tonight on mental health during COVID, and I'm going to switch up the order just a little bit. I'm going to talk about the signs and symptoms first of COVID. So in middle and high school, you're probably going to see changes in sleep and eating patterns. Maybe they're not eating enough or eating more. Maybe they're sleeping less or sleeping more. Those are some of the patterns to look for. They may have physical complaints, again, like headaches, gastrointestinal issues, irritable bowel syndrome. A lot of times these issues are being presented because they're not dealing with it emotionally. They're not dealing with those emotions that they're going through. They may exhibit delinquent behavior, or they may become defiant. They may worry a little bit more excessively than they used to. You may see them become a little bit more moody, irritable, sad. I even had a student who told me, you know, like at the beginning of this year, they thought things were going to becoming more normal, and then when the numbers started dropping, it was kind of like a little hopelessness because they didn't know if they were going to be able to participate in some of the activities that they would be participating in this year. So that feeling of hopelessness. And then you may notice tobacco use, alcohol use, prescription or over-the-counter medication abuse, those things like that. You may also see a decline in their grades and their productivity at school. And then we'll talk about coping strategies. So some of the things you as parents can can do, is practice self-care, help them practice self-care, allowing them to indulge in the activities that they may enjoy, tending to their mental, physical, and emotional needs. Even prioritizing a to-do list, because a lot of times these kids feel the pressure to get everything done all in one day, and we just know that there's not enough time to do that. So if they can prioritize what needs to be done, get those things done, and if they have time to do something else, then that they can. But just helping them feel like they've accomplished something during that day. Helping them to help others cope, because we're all in this together, and that may help them feel less alone if they know that there are other people out there who are experiencing some of the same emotions that they are. It kind of takes the focus off of them for a moment and lets them help someone else. Limiting media consumption. I know this is where we all need to know what's going on in the world. We all need to stay informed, but sometimes that can be overwhelming and it can be overstimulating. And then we also have to be careful about where we're getting those sources of information from. So making sure that they're fact-based and not just somebody's opinion of what's going on. Finding ways to manage disappointment. When we first went to COVID, to virtual learning, and we had to lose some of the activities that some of the seniors and the juniors were going to be experiencing, like prom and graduation. There was a lot of disappointment there. And then moving forward, we don't know what's going to happen from day to day. So sometimes we just might not be able to experience the social events in the same way that we once did, or maybe it may look different. Like we thought everybody was going to be at our graduation, and come to find out we can only have a certain number of people there. So finding creative ways for them to celebrate those life milestones in their lives. So that might look a little different. Even being able to focus on what you can control, because a lot of times anxiety comes in to play because we focus on things that we can't control. So helping them figure out what things they can control, even if it's something as simple as what am I going to wear tomorrow, or what am I going to eat, anything like that, anything that they can find that they can control themselves might help. And so ways to support your child. You can talk with them on a level that they will understand, because every child may be different in their level to in their ability to understand. So just being able to be available to talk to them, and even being honest with them as much as you possibly can. Helping your child feel as safe as possible, and sometimes that could just mean you wrapping your arms around them, hugging them, letting them know that inside our world is safe. Allowing your child to express his or her emotions, and just again being able to express their thoughts about what's going on in the world. Even for yourselves, modeling how you deal with stress can help your children a lot. You're going to have to be patient more than ever now. And if they can see that you're not getting so worked up because they're not doing some of their chores at home, or they're not getting things done on a timely manner, it might help them to practice patience and flexibility too. That will help them. Again, limiting your child's exposure to the media, and just not helping them get overwhelmed by all of that. And even trying to keep a routine. We don't know from day to day if we're going to go virtual or anything like that. But I had a student last year before we got out for summer, and she was like, Ms. Thompson, I want to be able to maintain the routine that I've had, now during the summer, so that when school starts back, I can, keep going. So even if it's just, go virtual again, just making sure that maybe they get up at the same time that they normally would, taking a shower, eating breakfast, and even if they're not doing an actual class, maybe they're doing an activity for those blocks that they would have been in class. Encouraging them to take breaks, because sometimes they can get frustrated with an assignment or just with life, where they can just feel down. And so letting them know that it's okay to take breaks, and encouraging them to eat right and to get enough sleep. And then staying connected to family and friends, not judging, each individual family for what they may be doing during this pandemic to stay safe, because every situation is different. And spending time together, using this time is just a way to connect with your children, board games, reading, taking a walk together. Those are some of the things that you can do to help. And as educators, it may be just addressing some of the apprehensions that they have about the school year coming back. What's it going to look like, again, virtual or whatever, and just letting them, voice their concerns and being honest, because we don't know if this is, if we're ever going to return to normal again. This may be our new normal, but again, just being honest with them. And some of the things that I found very interesting, I was reading this article, was introducing subject sensitively. And I had a student who did come to me and say, that there was a book that they didn't even want to read because it triggered emotions in them. And so they were able to go to their school counselor and get them to, adapt to that. I don't know if they changed classes or what, but just being more flexible with some of the school assignments, that might help them too, recognizing that it could be a trigger for them. Again, we just suffered a loss here at school, and so just allowing them, they may not get those assignments turned in, at the end of the week. They may need a little bit more time, and just being flexible with them on that. And then just checking in with them to make sure that they're okay, letting them know that you're here for them. So.
Okay, I'm going to go through a few things here just so that leaving how this all works really. Again, how much does it cost, and do you bill insurance? It's free, and no, we do not. Do we offer medication? No, we do not. That is something we send the children out to their doctors and to psychiatrists and things like that. That is outside of our realm, and so we will send them out to someone else for that. And we will, if needed, we will continue to work with that child, but we do not handle medication. What schools do you service? For the sake of this meeting, what's important to know is that we have a Enrichment Center counselor that services every single school in Madison City, including the pre-K center. So we have a full-time person at James Clemens, a full-time person at Bob Jones, and then we have one that splits the two middle schools 50-50, and then we have 3.5 that cover the elementary schools. So every school in the district has an Enrichment Center counselor at least 2 full days a week. Where do the counseling sessions take place? Someplace private. Okay, so I can't tell you anything beyond that because it depends on the school. The high schools, Felicia may have an office, and our counselor at Bob Jones has an office, but sometimes they share a space with someone else that's not in the building that day. And so maybe if there is, another counselor that's part-time, and, we'll use their room when they're not there, and then they use it when they are there. So it just kind of depends, but we always require that the school gives us a private location to do these counseling sessions. How often can a student see the Enrichment Center counselor? The easy answer here is as often as they need to, okay? But our mission statement is that we hope they don't have to see us forever that often. Okay, so our goal here is that we're trying to equip them to be able to move forward and have those tools and the support so that they can, start to handle some of these issues on their own. So yes, in the beginning, if they need to see somebody, multiple times a week because of something incredibly tragic that just happened, or if they're, suffered an immense loss recently to a family member or a friend, yes, they may need additional support, and that is something that we're prepared for. However, we hope that over 6 to 12 or however long that treatment plan is, that they work together with the counselor to come up with a plan. Okay, by Christmas, I hope that I'm only having to come see you once a month or something like that. What happens if the student changes schools? If your child is seeing an Enrichment Center counselor, they're in 8th grade at Liberty, and they transition to 9th grade at James Clemens, and they're not ready to be done yet. They still need support. That is on us, and we continue that support. We transition over the summer, and we make sure that every child that transitions from one school to the next, that their information transitions from one enrichment center counselor to the next. Same thing when Madison City Schools decides that they want to rezone. We meet over the summer and we say, okay, where did all my babies go? Because I used to see all these kids and now they're not at my elementary school anymore. So we make sure that they still have access to the enrichment center counselor and that we know where they are. We don't lose track of them, we keep up with them, and we make sure that our counselors work as a team to get those kiddos the help that they need.
So I do want to double back, because I think I forgot about the brief support. So I know many of you know that we have suffered a loss here at the school. And just to let you know that the Enrichment Center counselors are here to support, we work alongside with the school counselors. We also will pull other enrichment counselors from other schools to come in and help if there's an overwhelming response to the students' needs. So we do have those services. And sometimes we've gone into the classrooms. I think Ms. Gibbs did that this week. Going into the classroom, following that school schedule, the person who is deceased, and then just kind of being there for the students who may have been impacted directly by their lives. So we do that as well. So how do you know if your child needs services? Well, if you're experiencing any of those symptoms that I talked about earlier, which is anxiety, depression, if you're noticing a change, an abrupt change in how they're behaving, then we need our services. If the child has experienced the sudden life change, they may need services. If you're noticing their behavior has started to change, outbursts, either at home or at school, they may need services. If you're having difficulty regulating their emotions, and sometimes it may even be that they don't even know how they're feeling, they may need those services. And if you have any questions about that, then you can always call the school counselor, your child's school counselor, or myself directly. I'm here Monday through Friday.
Okay, I'm going to say a couple of things before we talk about this page. First of all, when schools pivot, and we pivoted in 2020 to virtual learning, the Enrichment Center pivoted along with it and provided telehealth services. We still maintain that platform. So if you have a child that is learning virtually, or if a child that goes into quarantine, or if a child, or if we do end up going hybrid or virtual or whatever, we do offer those services. We have a HIPAA compliant telehealth platform, and so we do not stop services. We will still continue to see kiddos. So just keep that in mind. So our mission, and this is something where, this is not a plug, yes, we are a nonprofit, but what I'm plugging here is we need your help to spread the word, okay? I have lived in this area for almost 13 years. I was a teacher at Discovery. I have my own children that go to Horizon, and nothing bothers me more as a parent and as an Enrichment Center employee when I hear a parent say, I had no idea this was in Madison City Schools, okay? So anything that you can do as parents and as community members to help us spread the word, because the last thing that we as an organization want to have happen is a child to go without help because they didn't know. And so that's one of the main reasons that we're so grateful to be asked to be here tonight, is because any chance that we get to talk about this, we want to be there. Because the more people that know about us, the more kids that are getting help from our organization. So I have a handout that I can give tonight and things that I can share later on that can be put on social media, but you know, we have a Facebook page, we have an Instagram page, we have a website, you can volunteer, you can just share the things that we post on social media or whatever, anything that you can do to really help get the word out there would be wonderful.
So, if you need any resources outside of the counseling, we have also a web page that lists some of those resources, books, videos, those kinds, articles, things like that that you can go to for additional support. The next steps that you would take would be to contact your school counselor if you are interested in receiving the enrichment counselor services. Again, you can visit our website to learn more
is our contact information. If you, again, you'll reach out to the school counselor or Ms. Thompson directly if you're interested in Enrichment Center services. Please keep in mind that we are, despite the fact that we don't bill insurance or anything, we still hold ourselves accountable to HIPAA guidelines. And so if a child is 14 or over, they are allowed to refer themselves. And so if if there is a high schooler that really feels like they want to talk to somebody, they can come in and refer themselves to speak with their school counselor. But again, and I say this, in the event that the family is involved, that's great, because we believe that the more support that the child has to get better and to feel better, that's awesome. But I just wanted you to know that we do see some students who, it's something very private to themselves, and they want to come get help, and so that is part of the HIPAA guidelines and things like that we can follow. So at the high school level, things are a little bit different than at the elementary and middle school level. Again, that's my information. And so I have business cards here today as well. If you have any questions about the organization as a whole, then you would want to reach out to me. And then anything clinical or specifically about getting services at James Clemens, you can reach out to your school counselor or to Felicia here directly. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question. How will you work with the school schedule? They have like 5 minutes in between the morning class and 5 minutes between the evening class, afternoon class. So like how would that fit into their class schedule?
Okay, so I think what you're asking is like when we see them. Usually we try to see them during their electives, but we also know that sometimes if they're dealing with anxiety, those classes are important for them. So for me, what works for me is that I can pull a student like from a core class. I usually will pull them like towards the end of that core class, and then that's maybe 20 minutes there that they've lost, and then the beginning of the first class. And then I usually will let the school teachers know where they are, and then I'll send a pass with them when they're done. So yeah, that's worked at our school. But every school is different in how they do that, but that's worked here.
Okay, thank you.
And refuel, before we took away refuel, that was always an option too. So sometimes during lunch, they may come in with their lunch and they'll just eat with me and talk.
That's good. I think lunch is
At the elementary level, if any of you have kids that are at different schools, they prioritize that elective time. They try to make it so that the child is not losing the core instruction time. So it is a juggling act for our counselors to make sure that they know, where that child is and when they're there and that kind of thing, so that we're not making, it's not causing them to miss, main instruction. Any other questions? Okay, again, thank you so much for inviting us to be here. And we have some handouts for those of you that are here if you'd like to take those before you leave. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Ladies, thank you. That was amazing information and something that I didn't think about, how important it is to have mental health so your schoolwork can succeed at the same time. It's so much, especially these days with COVID and all the grief that's going on in addition to COVID. That was great. And these ladies will be available if you're interested. They will be in attendance at our mental health fair, and there will be many other vendors and different resources from the community available if you'd like to hear more about what's available in the community. Before I forget, I want to thank Mrs. Flanagan and Dr. Clayton for being here and supporting the PTSA and allowing us to meet here in person still so we can get this information out to you. Please don't forget to join the PTSA, and if you have any other topics that you would like us to address that we can sit down and have a meeting like this about, we would love to hear them. We don't always think of everything on our own. So reach out to us through any of our social media outlets or through our email, and we will be sure to respond and get back to you. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful evening, and stay safe and healthy.